Hello guys and girls, if you're watching this video, that means you want to know more about Bram Stoker's classic monster novel, Dracula. I'll be providing you with a simple summary of the first chapter in the story to help you better understand what's going on if you got lost in some of the more glamorous language used in the actual book. With that being said, let's dive right in and check it out. The story of Dracula is told in the form of journal entries written by a number of characters in the story. Chapter 1 starts with personal diary entries from Jonathan Harker that are meant for his fiancée Mina Murray to detail his experience overseas. Jonathan is what you would call a solicitor or a lawyer, and basically what this guy is doing is traveling from England to Eastern Europe to complete his first professional assignment, which is to visit the castle of a Transylvanian nobleman in order to help him finalize the purchase of a home in London. What is the name of this mysterious nobleman? Just the one character we've been waiting to hear about since we opened the book: Count Dracula. Now, it's safe to assume that most people today know that Dracula is the name of a vampire, and not just any vampire. Usually, Dracula is portrayed as the king of all vampires, so it's noteworthy to mention here that John has no idea yet that this guy's a freaky, blood-sucking vampire. But I digress. On his way to Castle Dracula, John writes to Mina about the beautiful countryside and new recipes he plans to learn from the locals that he can't wait to share with her. He eventually checks into a hotel that was recommended to him by Count Dracula. Ominous, ominous, ominous. The innkeeper then gives John a letter from the Count. Ominous, ominous, ominous. It says that Dracula welcomes John and suggests that he take the next day's coach to the Borgo Pass, where a carriage will meet him and bring him the rest of the way to the castle. Now, to me, this sounds like some cryptic drug deal in a cold dark alley kind of stuff that John should have seen as his first red flag, but oblivious John decides to go through with it and settles in for the night. The next day, John's first real sign of danger comes from the innkeeper's wife as he's preparing to leave. She warns John that it is the eve of St. George's Day, when, quote, all evil things in the world will have full sway, end quote. In other words, all evil things will be in complete control or have full power tonight. So, a terrifying time to say the least. She then puts a crucifix around his neck. Now, John isn't a Catholic and doesn't believe in things like the supernatural protection of the cross, but to be polite, he accepts her gift despite feeling a bit disturbed by her. Unfortunately, his uneasiness is made even worse by a large group of gathering peasants that mutter strange words at him as he boards the coach. With the help of his dictionary, he translates the words, which basically mean werewolf or vampire. Ominous, ominous, ominous. As the coach pulls away from the inn with John and other passengers inside, the gathered peasants make the sign of the cross as they watch John depart. One of the passengers riding with John explains to him that the sign is meant to protect him from the evil eye. Ominous, ominous, ominous. The journey to the Borgo Pass takes all day. Around sundown, John begins seeing peasants kneeling in prayer at roadside shrines along their route. As darkness falls, the other passengers start freaking out and tell the coachman to hurry up and go faster. The driver whips the horses and the coach zooms off along the mountain road. Each of the passengers then begin to offer John small gifts that he assumes are also meant to ward off the so-called evil eye. The coach finally arrives at the Borgo Pass, but John doesn't see any carriage waiting, and just as the driver offers to bring him back to the pass safely the next day, a small horse-drawn carriage arrives. John boards the carriage and continues toward the castle. Along the way, John has the impression that the carriage is taking the same path over and over again, and he grows more scared as the ride progresses. He ends up getting freaked out multiple times by the howling of wild wolves. At one point, John looks outside the carriage and sees a flickering blue flame burning somewhere in the distance. The carriage driver actually pulls over without any explanation, inspects the flame, then returns to the carriage and continues on. John writes about several more stops the driver makes to inspect similar flames and notes that at one point, when the driver gathers a few stones around one of the flames, he seems to be able to see the flame through the driver's body. Eventually, John arrives paralyzed with fear at the dark and ruined castle of Count Dracula. Well, guys and girls, that covers the first chapter of Bram Stoker's dreaded tale, Dracula. There were some freaky elements in it, but not many terrible or horrifying occurrences just yet. This chapter mainly sets out to provide some necessary exposition and context, as well as to set the mood for the chapters to come. If you'd like to read more details about this chapter, check out the written summary of this chapter at sparknotes.com, and check out the directory of other pages for Dracula that cover characters, main ideas, quotes, and other aspects of the book to study. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy reading the rest of this thrilling story.